Hey everybody, Mr. Place here, coming to you with another demo, this time on color correction. VP20s, what you want to do is go to the handout folder, video, and you want to copy color correction right here. We're going to copy that, and then we're going to go to our desktop, into our primary folder, and we were going to put it into 3 video. Okay, so we're going to paste that in there, and inside that folder, there's just 3 clips, 3 little clips. So I'll make them a little bit bigger so you can see them here. But yeah, we've got some nice grade 10 clips here that were taken during the term. And what we're going to do is we're going to correct these. So 1, 2, and 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Premiere Pro, new project. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to call it normal naming conventions. Mr. Place VP20s S2 2023, and it's called color correction. Color correction. There. So that's the name of the project. Where is our file going to be? Our base file right here. We are going to hit project location, and we're going to go choose location. Okay, and we're going to go to our desktop, our primary folder, into our video, and we're going to ensure that we select color correction and hit choose right here. Good. And we are ready. We hit create in the very bottom corner here, and we are ready to bring in the footage. Okay, let's bring in our footage. We know where it is. It's in our desktop. Video, color correction. Let's bring all 3 of them in, and we'll hit import. There they are right here. So what I'd like you to do is grab number 1 and grab it and drop it in the timeline. Okay, let's have a look at this. Look at that. Okay, and what I want you to do is grab the same video and butt it up against the next video. So that's number 1. You're going to grab number 1 again, and you are going to butt it up against there. The reason is we're going to have an unaffected, but we're going to use the second clip right here to apply our color correction so that you have some sort of contrasting comparison. Okay, so there's 1, 1. Then we want 2, a lot smaller here, a lot shorter in duration. 2, 2, and 3, 3. Grab your 2, 2. All right, and 3, 3. There we go. Look at that. Okay, so when we play this, it's pretty long. If you want to, if you do want to trim the clip just a little bit, just make it consistent from one to the other. There we go. Right-click, ripple, delete, bring everything back. Look at that. Okay, so let's start with this first clip. We know that it's a little bluish. Okay, the color of temperature, it's a little bluish. Sometimes we want that, but what we want to do is we're going to make this neutral. Okay, so what we want to do is to go into our workspace up here, and we want to click and hit color. Fantastic, look at that. So you can look right away. We have basic color correction right here. When I click the clip, make sure you click the second clip right here, because we're going to make changes to the second clip. So right away in basic correction, you can see that there's temperature, tint, and saturation. There's some other ones here too we'll talk about in a minute, but we're seeing that the color is a little bluish. So we're going to go in the opposite direction to warm things up a little bit, and we want to eyeball this and just bring it up, just so we think, you know, things are looking good. Okay, tint, we can play around with that. We see it's a little greenish, little, you know, on the reds. So we want to pull this down visually. It looks pretty good where it was about 0. Okay, so those are the 3 that we're going to use. Sometimes if you're saturated, this means it's going to add more saturation or more colors, and this way it's going to take the vibrancy down a little bit. Okay, you can even go black and white if you pull it all the way down. It's one way of doing black and white. I'm going to leave it about where it was. So the only thing that I made change on this one was warmed it up a bit. In these right here, we have exposure, contrast, highlights. Those are the upper colors, you know, the whites and all the highlights. The shadows are the darker colors, lower on the spectrum on the scale, and whites and blacks right here. So let's just creatively, we'll turn up the exposure. Say if something's too dark or too light, we can bring them down. So even if you're doing, you know, you want to make a creative night shot or something, you can do it with an exposure. Make it look like it's night. Okay, but the only thing I'm going to do to this clip is really just maybe change the contrast a bit, highlights, bringing them up a little bit. Okay, shadows, this will only affect the darker color, so you know, eyeball this and it looks good. Okay, and here's your whites, and here's your blacks right here. So if you bring the blacks down a little bit, you can see that only the darker colors are affected. So be creative on that, but the main point is the temperature right here. You've corrected that, you've made it warmer, and you've changed the exposure a little bit. Okay, if you ever want to go back and just hit reset effect right here, you can do that. Okay, so quickly look at me go here, brighten things up a little bit. I would say that's acceptable. So contrast from here, it's very blue and color corrected. Okay, so the next one we're coming in here, look at that. Okay, so we got Caleb sitting here in one of his films, and we notice that it's a little bit on the yellow side. So what we're going to do is we're going to cool this down, grab the temperature, pull it till you think it's looking pretty good. There's a little trick right here too, this white balance right here, this little eyedropper. This paper should be white, so when I click it, look what it does. It just automatically did that for me. So that's a little trick you can use. It sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. It's still, there's a lot of greens in there. So let's bring this up a little bit. That's the tint, saturation. We'll bring it down a bit. So that looks pretty acceptable right there. Exposure, bring it up, down, whatever you want. Contrast, you can see the difference between contrast. It's looking pretty good. Okay. So you can have a look at that. Look at the difference right here. There's a difference, the beginning to the end, looking good. And then we've got another one right here. That wave might be a little too long, so we'll trim the clip. There we go. There. So we got our before and our after. Before you start, what do you think? Well, you can just tell that maybe if we cool this down a little bit. Okay, the tint, a lot of greens in there. We'll bring this up a little bit. Saturation, let's bring it down just a bit. Okay, and you're there. Now you can play with your exposure, contrast. Don't do too many things. Less is better sometimes. Highlights, shadows. Okay, so look at that. It's looking really good. Okay, good. And on this last part, what I want you to do is I want you to put a vignette on it. Okay, so way at the very bottom right here, this is creative, right? So sometimes you'll see this in a lot of your movies. You got to be careful on YouTube. You can see the banding, but when you click on that, here's your vignette right here. So what you want to do is if you pull this down, you can do a vignette. You can pull this all the way down. Look what it did to the edges. And if you go in the reverse, it'll whiten up the edges or it'll darken it. Look at that. Okay, so your midpoint is right here. So this is like stylizing your video at the end. If you're doing like a horror movie, you can see that a lot when you're watching. And here's your feather, okay? So we don't want that. We just want to feather it off a little bit, taper it off. There you go. So I want you to put a vignette on the last one. So from start to finish, we've got this, we've got that, we've got this, we've got color corrected, we've got this, color corrected with a vignette, okay? Hit an input and an output. Okay, but before we do the output, all you have to do is go output here. Let's just give, it doesn't even have to be rolling credits. I just want to see this right here. This is going to be your name, double space, VP20s, S1, sorry, that's S2, 2023, 2023, okay, and date submitted. Date submitted is going to be whenever it is. Today's May 11th for me. 2023 there, and so definitely have a look. Make this last for 3 or 4 seconds. I don't even care if it fades in. Okay, and then make your output at the end of that. So we've got our input output. We want to file save as. Good, and we're going to save color correction. Look at that. I'm going to save that. Just make sure it's in the proper place. Video color correction. I'm going to save that and I'm going to export, and my export is quite simple. You've done it before. Export media. Make sure you call it again. You're going to call it the right thing, .mp4. Naming correct, naming conventions. Color correction. There. And where are we going to put it? We're going to put it in our folder. color correction there. There's my MP4. It's going to go in there once I hit export at the bottom here. Making my video. Fantastic. Once that finishes, what you want to do is hand it in. Okay, so hand in folder. There it is right here. Here's your project file. There's your color correction, MP4, H.264. We're going to copy these and we're going to hand it into the hand in folder. Okay, so the video production hand in folder is going to go into VP20s 3 video, and there is a new folder right here called color correction in Premiere Pro. Paste that in there. That is it. That's color correction. Please use this in practice on your film coming up or any future films that you do. That's Mr. Place out, and I will see you folks very, very soon. Take care.